Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about sharpening, how I do my sharpening for almost all of my wildlife pictures. And I'm going to go over some of the standard sort of sharpening techniques that I think most people use and why I think they're not quite as good as this one. I'm going to be working from a raw file in Lightroom and Photoshop, and I'm using a Windows PC, so let's get into it. Alright, so here we are in Lightroom. This is the image I'm going to use. I was going to use a different one, but the trouble is a lot of these shots I was at very low shutter speeds and it was quite good lighting that day, so they were just a bit too clean. This one was shot at, you can see up here it's 1/1000th of a sec and ISO 900. So if you zoom in, you'll see, if I zoom in even a bit more to 2:1, you can see there is quite a bit of noise in the background here. One of the problems I see other people doing quite a lot is, I guess maybe their picture's a bit soft or whatever, and they'll really crank up the sharpening. And you can see the more I crank up the sharpening, the more the noise in the background starts to get really harsh. The details pop nicely, but the noise also gets much worse. So what if there was a way to crank up the details but not increase the noise? Okay, well, selective sharpening. Yeah, let's get into it. So one of the approaches you can use is actually built right into Lightroom, and so I'll just turn the sharpening all the way up so you can see a bit more clearly how this works. You can see it's increased the noise in the background, but it's made the details pop nicely. And if I increase this masking slider, you can kind of see how the background has now lost a lot of the noise, but the detail still pops nicely. And if you hold down Alt, you can actually see how it's doing this. As you raise the masking slider up and down, it's actually changing the threshold where it will add sharpening only to detail and not to areas where there isn't detail. So I find around 70 usually works quite well. The problem with this is it doesn't give you much control. It'll only add sharpening where it thinks it should go based on the contrast of the image. And the other thing is you're adding it right down at the pixel level on the full resolution image. For web use in particular, you do want to be adding your sharpening at the final output resolution. So when you're doing this kind of selective sharpening, basically turn off sharpening in Lightroom. So I'm going to drag the sharpening down to 0, and you can see that really improves the look of the noise. It doesn't look that bad. It's ISO 900, but honestly the noise in the background isn't that bad. It does make the rest of the bird look a little bit soft, but we'll be able to fix that. Alright, so let's just say I'm happy with the crop. I'm gonna right click and edit in Photoshop CC. And here's our image in Photoshop. Now you can see I'm zoomed at 33.3%, so I've got a long way I can zoom in. I think the most important thing about this technique, or one of the main things that why this technique is so good, is you want to do your sharpening at the output resolution. If this were a print, it would be different. But for web use, say you're going to upload this on Instagram or Flickr, you want to do your sharpening at the resolution that it'll be displayed at. Now, I know everyone's phone has a different resolution, everyone's monitor is a bit different, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to do the sharpening at the resolution that I export for each one. So in this case, say I wanted to upload this picture to Flickr, I would want to do the image resizing first. So let's do that. Image size. For Flickr, the long edge, which is this one, in this case should be 2048. And then the height just happens to be 1365 for this aspect ratio, which is fine. Make sure resample is ticked. Bicubic in general is the best one to use, so make sure it's set to that. And hit OK. And there we go, this is the resolution that Flickr uses. Now we're actually going to apply our sharpening. So the way we do that is I'm going to come over to this background layer and duplicate it by dragging it down onto the new layer icon down here. And this gives me background copy. Now we're gonna, with this layer selected, go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And this looks a bit crazy, but basically you can think of this filter as it extracts the high frequency details or the fine details and kind of removes everything else. The radius we're using is 1 pixel. I find 1 pixel works best if you're working at output resolution, so in general just leave this on 1 pixel. We'll hit OK. And by the way, so one thing to note about sharpening, it doesn't add detail. I guess that's a misconception that's easy to have because it seems to add detail. Try to think of it more like a contrast slider for high frequency details. So it's just a way to kind of push them up and make them pop a bit more. So the next thing I'm going to do is, alright, I'm just actually re-recording this part because when I did this the last time, I found it a little bit too difficult to see on the final video. So I'm just going to do the same thing again, which is to go in and change the blending mode to overlay. Double stack these layers by creating a copy. That's just going to really accentuate the effect, and hopefully you guys watching on YouTube will actually be able to see it as I'm doing it. I'm going to also select both of these by holding Shift and place them into a folder by clicking on the folder icon here. And then I'm going to add a layer mask to that folder by holding Alt and clicking on the layer mask icon. That's actually going to add a black layer. So that's essentially made everything in this folder invisible. So both of these are set to overlay. The folder itself is just set to the standard pass-through with a black layer. And what happens when I paint white, so I've got the brush tool selected, my color is set to pure white, and the brush I'm using is a soft brush. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So hopefully on YouTube you can see this effect as I do it. As I start to paint over in white, it's actually starting to show through that sharpening, but only in the areas where I paint. So I'll just do that again. I'll zoom in. I just want you to see this happening in real time. So as I'm painting, you see how the eye and the feathers just start to get a bit sharper? It's kind of a subtle effect. You can add even more of these layers on top of each other to make it even stronger if you wish. But I would say this is probably a bit more intense than I would usually do it. And try to avoid over sharpening your images. I see it a lot on Flickr. It looks pretty bad if you overdo it. Go with a little bit more of a subtle look. That's my approach. Just enough to make the details pop, but not enough to make the image look crunchy. So just paint over any areas that are in focus and have sharp detail. Don't paint over the background, that'll accentuate the noise. I'm not going to paint over any of the out of focus areas like down here on these chest feathers or the tail here. And so what if I was to overshoot? If I say I was painting around the edge of the head here and I went a bit too far, you might be able to just see that it increases the noise a bit on the outside. If that happens, don't worry, you can either Control Z to undo, or if you press X, you'll see the colors change from black to white. So then you can just paint black over the area that you painted white by accident, and it will change it back to black and make it transparent again. So, you know, if you want to, you can take lots of time and really go in and paint around these borders really nicely. Generally, I find you can be fairly rough, just use a brush about this size and just paint over. And that's really all there is to it. So now if I toggle this layer on and off, you should be able to see the difference. Even if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully you can see this. It just adds a nice bit of extra crispness and pop. Especially you can see it around the neck feathers here and the eye. Yeah, it's quite a nice effect. And then if you wanted to tone the effect down, you would just drag the opacity for this layer or group down a bit. And you can see that just reduces the intensity of the effect a bit. So I would probably go for something around here. So that's it basically. Lets you give your images a bit more crispness and pop, but without increasing the noise in the background. So that's why I like this technique so much. And I think that if you start using it on your own images, you'll start to really notice the difference. Alright, well, I hope you got something from this video. If you liked it, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And don't forget to check out my other videos. I do a lot of wildlife vlogs where I go out into nature and get shots like the one I just showed you. Yeah, with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye. That'll do, right? Going to be doing a few more videos soon. One is about this lens. I actually don't own this anymore, but a friend of mine lent it to me, and I kind of wish I still had mine. This is a great lens. It's a portrait lens, so yeah, I've got a video coming up on this soon. And I also want to make a video about the Atomos Shinobi, so that'll be coming soon as well. This is the monitor I use for focusing and for situations like this where I need to see myself on camera. So subscribe to see those. Alright, catch you in the next one. Oh, and one more thing before I go. I've recently set up a profile on kit.com. This isn't sponsored or anything, but if you go there, you can check out the gear I use. And you can actually go in, and I've written a few descriptions for some of the products I use, stuff like that. And there are links to them on Amazon. So if that interests you at all, go and check it out.